It's just Bruce, he don't bite. Hello.
Hey folks, welcome back to my shop. How you doing? Bruce coming at you. As you can see by the title, we're going to talk about Gen X food today. I figure everybody talks about, well, not everybody, but a lot of people talk about the Gen X toys we had when we were kids. I've done the, the Star Wars thing. The way we played, stayed outside, just the whole Gen X culture of growing up where, by the time you're 13, you're expected to act like you're 30 years old. And pretty much everything's been done, but I'm like, no one talks about food anymore. And, me being a career chef, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I didn't think to do this like earlier, because I love talking about Gen X stuff. The video games, the whole 9 yards, all the videos I've done about Gen X. Even me today talking about a Gen X point of view of something modern that we didn't have when we were kids. So I would like to talk about Gen X food and what we had back then. And I'm specifically talking about the 1970s, whenever we were growing up. I'm going to be 56 here in May. And in the 70s, I was 10 years old in 1978. So me being a little kid all through the 70s, that's what we're going to talk about. Anyway, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and my wife doesn't like to be in these videos. Plus, she's ready for bed, so I don't care about that kind of stuff. I mean, look at me. My beard's all scraggly. I worked all day in the shop, played around with piano for a little bit. I don't care what I look like. If you're here to see like a supermodel, you came to the wrong place, for real. Anyway, Gen X food. And like I'm saying, this is the stuff we grew up with when we were little kids, and we'd go home for lunch, or the dinners we had after school, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to get started, and what are we going to start with? There's so much to talk about. Well, we'll start from the beginning. In the morning, we'd wake up, and I don't know about you guys, but me, always cereal. There was always cereal in the cupboard. My parents never got the good cereal. We pretty much just got what they got, and Frosted Flakes with my dad's, so we weren't allowed to touch that. No Tony the Tiger for me. So, but I was allowed to have Corn Flakes or Special K. Who the hell wants that? You know what I liked when I was a little kid? The monster cereals like Count Chocula, Boo Berry, Frankenberry. I loved those. I loved those. But once again, I was limited because Frankenberry and Boo Berry were always for my sister. I got Count Chocula, which, I'm sorry, in my opinion, I got the better end of that deal. But I wasn't allowed to touch the Frankenberry or the Boo Berry. That was just for my older sister. Every morning, year-round, was cereal. That's just what we had. Whether it was a school day or a summer day, didn't matter. First thing in the morning, you get up, have a bowl of cereal. But if you used too much milk, Dad would yell at you. Not really sure why, but it is what it is. But cereal led to lunch, which during the school year, we would have lunch at school. School lunches. I mean, I could do a whole video about school lunches. Remember the pizza? I mean, was it the same like all over the United States, or maybe the world, if you're from another country, was like school lunches what we had? But the school lunches were, I liked them. I mean, for the most part, they were pretty good. We'd have everybody look forward to the pizza, which I already mentioned. We had the little fish squares, fish sandwiches. I really like those too. I'm a fish guy. I like fish. We have the hamburgers, which I'm still convinced to this day that wasn't really hamburger meat. I'm pretty sure it was just like soybean shit, but we still loved them. We ate them. And those little peanut butter kisses. How many of y'all remember those little peanut butter kisses? They were the square peanut butter. To this day, me being a retired chef, I don't know how to make those. I tried. I've had a couple recipes. This is your school lunch peanut butter thing. No, never come out the same. I still to this day don't know the recipe. I did figure out the school pizza recipe, which I've made that before. In fact, I should do a cooking video about that so y'all can make that at home for reminisce. The burgers, we're not going to do that. What else was good? The French fries were okay we didn't get French fries till after middle school, whenever they started giving it to us. But we always look forward to the school lunches. If I was a fat kid, I loved my food. I really wish back then when they made fun of me for being fat that I could just say, yeah, I'm fat, so what? I like food. It's still that way to this day. My weight goes up and down. I've lost weight, gained weight, lost a ton of weight. Gained some of it back. I don't care anymore. I love food. Now, I don't know if you guys have had this experience or not, but lunchtime during the summer, I had to be home at a certain time. Like in Gen X world, we had to just leave the house and go play, go do something, go play softball, go play baseball, go blow something up, and go start a fire in the woods and burn an entire field and almost get arrested, but then you blame it on the bully of the street. That's a whole other story. Lunch at my house, growing up, little, I don't know, like 6 to 13-year-old little Brucey running around in the summer. And come on, my mom wouldn't make lunch, but lunch was always Lipton cup of soup. That was my lunch during the summer. It was always a thing of Lipton cup of soup and a peanut butter sandwich, which I will still eat those to this day. I'm not downing it. I'm not putting it down in any way, shape, or form. I still to this day. But I'm the weirdo that takes the peanut butter sandwich and dips it into the Lipton cup of soup and eats it that way. I've been told I'm really strange for doing that. My wife used to laugh at me until she tried it. She tried it, and guess what? She'll do it too. So that was basically our lunches and stuff like that. We didn't get like takeout food. We didn't get Uber Eats. We didn't have any of that back then. We ate what Mom and Dad gave us. And most of the time for me, it was a Lipton cup of soup and a peanut butter sandwich. That was my lunch. Now, summer lunch in the 1970s and school year lunch in the 1970s was obviously completely different because we have school lunch while we're at school. But one thing never changed is my dad came home at 4:30 every day. He had a real job, big boy job. And so during the school year, I get home about 3. So that would give me about an hour and a half to watch TV, what I wanted to watch, until he came home and kicked me off the TV, because that's what Dad did. Yeah, when Dad's home, he wants to watch what he wants to watch. And of course, a little kid isn't interested in what he was... Me being a little kid, I wasn't interested in the stuff he was watching. I don't even remember what he used to watch at that time of day. But it was him winding down after work all day. I mean, I was raised in a traditional family. My parents were older. I wasn't born until they were 35. And back then, that was late in life. That was late in life. So he still had the 50s mentality, where my mom would stay home and cook and clean, and he would work all day and come home, and he'd be the king of the castle. I know I don't believe in that, never did. So before you blow me up in the comments, I believe in a partnership. It's like, hey, if the dishes needs cleaned, whoever's there needs to do it. Whether it's me, her, doesn't matter. That's why me and my wife get along so well, because we share those responsibilities. But we're talking about back in the 1970s with older parents. But like I was saying, my dad would come home at 4:30, and he would sit in front of the TV, and we only had the one TV. Remember the big box TVs? Gen X will remember it, but the big box console TVs, that's, of course, what we had. And we only had one in the house because, my parents were older. But, yeah, we got booted off the TV, couldn't watch what I wanted to watch, which didn't matter. But that was my homework time. So I would do my homework time, get my homework done, which most of the time I went upstairs and played my Atari 2600 and pretended like I was doing my homework. And then 6 o'clock was dinner had to be on the table at 6 o'clock, period. And that's what we're going to get into right now. The menu that my parents had that I had to deal with, I'm not even going to say deal with it, maybe that's poor choice of words, the menu that I grew up with in the entire 70s all the way till I'd say 84-ish. So 1970 to 84. Of course, 1970 I was only 2 years old, but that was just how I was raised. So every night was a specific food, and that went on for years. It's just what we did. And here's another thing that we don't do today, and I kind of wish we did, but we don't. I didn't do it with my kids. It wasn't possible, because I raised my daughters by myself. It just wasn't possible. But every night we had dinner time at 6 o'clock, and we'd all sit down, all of us, my mother, my father, my sister, and I. We would all sit down and had dinner at 6 o'clock. If you weren't there, you didn't eat. That's all there was to it. And 90% of the time we were all there. It's just the way we did it. Sunday night was pork chop night. Always. We go to church Sunday morning and come home, and my mom would make pork chops every single Sunday night. She'd change up the potatoes and vegetable once in a while, but usually it was pork chops, mashed potatoes, green beans, and a really nasty gravy. I'm just saying. Monday night was burger night. Monday night was fun. Monday night was burger night. So we'd have burger night. Sometimes as a special treat, my dad would let my mom use the fryer and she would make French fries. But for the most part, we'd have burgers and mac and cheese, which I love mac and cheese too, but if you eat mac and cheese all the time, you kind of get tired of it. Tuesday was some kind of chicken. My mom used to buy the banquet chicken. It's a frozen fried chicken, which I will never, ever buy that, ever. They still sell it. I will never, ever buy it. And she would serve that with mashed potatoes or whatever. That was kind of different. That was where she was allowed to be a little creative. The thing about my mom is, and I haven't mentioned this before, my mom wasn't really that good of a cook. I hate saying it. I love my mom. She just wasn't really a good cook. Case in point, if she would get fresh green beans from the garden, she would boil them for 20 minutes. That's how I was raised. I was raised, you boil green beans for 20 minutes. Now, being a chef for 40-some years, I know a lot better, and it's so much tastier after I learned how to cook. It's just how she cooked. I mean, if I come to your house and I say, oh my God, this is just as good as my mom made, that's an insult. That's a big insult. So anyway, moving on, Wednesday. Wednesday had to be meatloaf night no matter what. My dad insisted on it. Wednesday had to be meatloaf. Now, my mom was allowed to make, notice I said allowed to make because that's the way things were back then. She was allowed to make either mashed potatoes or mac and cheese, but it had to be meatloaf. Now, every once in a while, he would deviate from this, and we would have roast beef. Now, roast beef to this day, pot roast, good old Yankee pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, and a good brown gravy is still my favorite meal. Out of all the cool stuff I can cook, the roast beef, mashed potatoes, and gravy with green beans has always been my favorite, and it always will be. But Wednesday was definitely beef day. 90% of the time, it was meatloaf. Thursday was pasta night, and my mom would make spaghetti and a jarred sauce, ragu, I believe, and no meat, just a can of ragu sauce, and that was dinner. No garlic toast. If you're lucky, you got white bread, the nasty white bread left over from the Lipton cup of soup peanut butter sandwiches that I said earlier. But yeah, that was spaghetti. And when she cooked the spaghetti, it was always, I learned you cook your spaghetti, any pasta, you cook it al dente. Al dente. Sounds fancy, but I'm sorry, it's so much better. No, you got mush pasta from my mom. Friday night, the entire year, always fish. We weren't even Catholic. We weren't Catholic at all. My mom was raised Jewish. My dad was raised Methodist. I was raised Methodist, but I went off to other religions to study, and it doesn't matter. Fish every Friday, no matter what. No matter what, some kind of fish. Fish sandwiches, broiled fish. She had an electric skillet, and the only thing she cooked in that was Friday's fish. And I mean, it wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. I said I love fish. I really do. But every single Friday. This is how we grew up. Saturday was actually a pretty cool day. You know why? Saturday was leftover day. Whatever was in the refrigerator would be what we eat. Sometimes my mom wouldn't cook, and we'd just be on our own. Grab food, whatever, But it was always leftover day. So if you liked something earlier in the week, you got to reheat it and eat it on Saturday. But only Saturday. You couldn't have leftovers any other night of the week. I mean, how dumb is that, really? That doesn't fly in my household. Now, that was our basic meals we had Sunday through Saturday for years, the whole through the 70s up until 1984. It was frustrating. Like I said, my mom wasn't the best cook in the world. I hate saying that, but it's true. But it's leading up to something what I'm going to talk about here. There was one more type of food that my mom would make for my father and I. We used to hunt and fish. My father would take me out hunting, and I used to love hunting with my father, and fishing too. I think I like fishing better than hunting, actually, and I still to this day competitively shoot. But the hunt, she would get up early in the morning because my dad insisted we had to leave before the sun was up, whether we were going fishing or hunting didn't matter. We'd be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. My mom would get up with us, and she would pack us lunches and food to eat, which, bless her soul, that was amazing. I mean, if in today's world, my wife, if I told her to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, pack me a lunch so I can go fishing, she'd give me one of these, and I don't blame her. I'd make my own lunch. But my mom would get up and she'd make us lunches, but she was so passive-aggressive about it, it was funny. My lunch, for instance, basically a fishing lunch for me was 2 pieces of white bread with a piece of bologna in it and smothered in ketchup. And then she'd wrap it up, throw it in a lunchbox, and if I was lucky, I got a Twinkie or a Ho-Ho or something to go with it, but she'd make a couple of those, and my dad, same thing. My dad, he would get the bologna with the ketchup, and I'm sorry, it was gross. It was gross, but it gets better. It gets better. Every once in a while, we'd have turkey or, what we call here in Pennsylvania, jumbo. I'm sorry, not jumbo. Jumbo's bologna. Chicken roll. We call it chicken roll here. And it's basically the same as turkey. It's a cold cut. And she'd make those sandwiches on white bread, of course. Sometimes hamburger buns, which, same thing. So we get a piece of chicken, or turkey, and we get some cheese. And if we were really good boys, we'd get lettuce and tomato. But not really. I'm not really a tomato fan anyway, so it didn't matter. But anyway, we go fishing, hunting, and pull out her sandwich, take a big bite out of it. The cheese slid out because my mom forgot to take the plastic wrap off of it. Now, I don't know, to this day, and my mom passed away last month, so to this day, I don't know if she did that on purpose to be funny or to be passive-aggressive, or if she was just so tired that she just forgot. To this day, I still don't know that. And my dad never confronted her about it. I did, because I'm like, why'd you leave the plastic on the cheese? She's like, oh, I didn't realize I did that. I don't know. I kind of think because of my personality, and it's my mom, I think she did it to be passive-aggressive. But, it's still funny. It's a good memory, But that was our fishing trip sandwiches and our hunting trip sandwiches. Yeah, the wrapper's still on the cheese. And it's funny because my wife has actually done that to me once. Whenever she used to pack my lunch whenever I had a job earlier. And, she let the plastic on the cheese, and I told her about it. And okay. She was drunk when she made my sandwich, so that's what happened there. Maybe my mom was drunk. I don't know. I mean, I don't remember her drinking much, but she did like wine. Could be. So anyway, like I said, that's how we ate all the way up till 1984. And the reason I said 1984, there's a reason for that. I got my first cooking job in 1984 at a little place called Soup and Sandwich. And I started learning how to cook. And once I started learning how to cook, I loved it. And that's why I eventually became a chef. But I will always, that place will always have a special place in my heart. That's why to this day, my soups win contests. Because I learned from the best, and I learned more, and I added to it. And after that job, I started working at Denny's. Pretty sure there's Denny's in all the states. Denny's. I think it's in all the states. I don't know. Let me research that. Okay, so I literally just looked that up, and there are Denny's in 49 states. So y'all should know what a Denny's is. Anyway, I took that as a part-time job. I was still working with Soup and Sandwich. But of course, Denny's is famous for their breakfast. So I learned how to cook breakfast food. Now, keep in mind, back then, I'm only like 16, 17 years old. So one weekend, my father and I were lounging around the house just talking. My dad said he's hungry. And I'm like, I can make breakfast, just learn how. I work at Denny's. He's like, okay. He said, what can you make? I said, well, what do you want? He said, everything. My dad was a fat guy like me. So I'm like, okay. So I went out to the kitchen, and I started making breakfast. My mom comes down. She's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm making you all breakfast. Well, she very sensitive about her kitchen, even more than I am. And she's like, well, you better clean it up. I'm like, I will. I'm going to make you breakfast. I want to show off a little bit. I just, learn how to do all this stuff. So because my dad told me to make everything, I'm like going to grab everything I could find in the house and make everything. And we had can of biscuits. I'm like, all right, that's a start. So I made the biscuits, and I found sausage, I found bacon, I started making pancakes. I made everything, every breakfast item I could find in the house, I made a little bit of for me and my father. I wanted to show off for him. I wanted him to be proud of me. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I got to cook for my dad, I trashed the kitchen. I did. I totally trashed the kitchen. I think I dirtied every single pan we had. And turns out I made all this food as sausage, bacon, the biscuits. I made sausage gravy to go with the biscuits. I made, you name it, I probably made it, except for waffles. We didn't make waffles. But you had pancakes, just the whole 9 yards. And me and my dad were sitting there chowing down, eating like fat kids. And we enjoyed it. My dad's proud of me. He's like, oh, this is really good, because remember, my mom couldn't cook. Not that well. Anyway, so we call that breakfast from hell day, because it was literally everything a fat guy would want to eat for breakfast that we had. I even made homemade hash browns from raw potatoes. And I was only like 17, 18 years old at the time, and it destroyed my stomach. My dad was popping Tums like M&Ms from that. So, okay, we ate. Everything was good. He loved it. My mom wouldn't touch anything. She wouldn't eat nothing. She was mad because I messed up her kitchen. You don't go in mom's kitchen back then. And I kind of respect that, because I don't want anybody in my kitchen here at the house either. Even my wife. We don't cook together. If she's going to cook, she cooks and does her thing. She's a good cook, by the way. But we don't share the kitchen. She cooks, she cleans up her mess. I cook, I clean up my mess. But my dad was just so thrilled that he had it wasn't even a great breakfast compared to nowadays what I can do. But he was just so happy to have food that wasn't burnt, bacon that didn't look like charcoal, and juicy sausage, and pancakes that weren't like flat and burnt. He was just very happy. He was just very happy. And we ate together. We go to the living room. We're sitting there on the couch. And, of course, after you eat such a big breakfast, what do? Food coma. So he's laying on the couch. I'm laying on the recliner. We're just relaxing, enjoying the aftermath of the breakfast that we just ate. In comes my mom. When the hell are you going to clean that up? And we were totally going to clean it up. We were totally going to do the dishes, but we're enjoying our food coma. Oh, she was pissed. Well, like I said, she wouldn't eat none of the food. She was just pissed that I trashed her kitchen. And overall, she was pissed that I was a better cook than she is, just for breakfast. Breakfast is easy. And yeah, but I'll never forget the look on her face, and she'd go blah, 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 and then she'd go downstairs and do something, come back up, and another thing, blah 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 blah. Just how I grew up. Well, as it turns out, my dad and I both passed out, and she ended up doing the dishes. So I probably would have felt bad if she hadn't bitched so much about it, but it is what it is. But like I said, that's when I just first started to learn how to cook. And then, then this happened. So by now, it's like 1985, 1986, and I graduated high school in 86. And I went off to college for a couple years. And so, but every weekend I come home, my dad would ask me to cook something. And I didn't go to, I wasn't in culinary school yet. I went to college. I was working. What was I doing when I was in college? I worked at a steakhouse for a little bit, just simple cooking, no big deal. But I come home, cook dinner for my dad over the weekend whenever I stayed there. And he loved it. My mom used to get mad about it all the time too. So I got out of college, and then my mom wanted to go on vacation. She wanted to go down and visit my sister in Florida with her grandchildren. My dad, he wasn't much of a traveler, so he just stayed home. Well, I was living there at the time, so my dad's like, well, do you mind cooking this week? I'm like, I don't care, because actually at that point in time, I don't think I was working. I don't know what I was doing then. I think I just got out of college because, it was my last year of college. I worked at Cedar Point that summer, and I came home, and this would have been August, September-ish, whenever my mom went. And I had just gotten home from working at Cedar Point over the summer, which I worked under a chef up there, which that was actually, I actually like that job. But my dad, he's like, well, do you mind cooking? Because he was still working at the time. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. You know, you're letting me stay here for free for a little while till I get my shit together. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I said, what do you want? He's like, well, he said, you know what I like? I'm like, he wanted to stick with that same menu. He was still, after all these years, doing a Sunday through Saturday menu. He wanted the same food. I'm like, okay, I can do it. I was a little disappointed. I want to give him something new because I had just learned a whole bunch of stuff working in that steakhouse. But no, he wanted the same old, same old. So that's what I gave him. So I actually came home on a Saturday. And that Saturday, that's the same day my mom left. I got to say hi and bye, and she left to go to Florida for the week. And she was coming back the following Saturday. So my dad's like, well, you don't have to cook today. And he took me out to eat, which for my dad, that was a big deal because he did not like going to restaurants. He did not like leaving the house. He just didn't like that. So we went out to eat. I don't even remember what we had. It doesn't really matter. And Sunday I woke up and I made breakfast. Just made a normal breakfast, nothing fancy. For lunch we had like, I don't know, some kind of sandwich, some stupid shit. Doesn't matter. It was only lunch. And then dinner had to be pork chops, like I was saying earlier. Okay, I made my breaded pork chops. Yeah, 10 times better than my mother ever made. And he ate them. He loved them. He's like, I kind of felt bad about eating these because he liked them so much. It's like, yeah. Look, I love my mother. Don't get me wrong, but she just seriously couldn't cook, and my dad knew it too. But I don't think he had a right to bitch about it because, you know, there's nothing stopping him from going in the kitchen and making a sandwich or something for himself. But that's how he was because, you know, he grew up in the 50s, the 40s and 50s. And I have so much to say about that, but it doesn't matter. So I made him breaded pork chops and French fries and made a pork gravy, put pork gravy on top of the pork chops and the French fries and green beans. He loved it, of course. Monday comes along, it's burger night. He wanted a burger. So I made burgers. I made some southern mac and cheese. He loved that too. Long story short, I cooked every dish that he wanted me to make throughout the week. And when it came to fish, I didn't do the broiled fish my mom always did. I actually did a fried fish that I had learned how to make at a steakhouse, and that's the one I really wanted to show off. Because even Wednesday, I simply made meatloaf, which my meatloaf is on point, always has been. I had a hell of a recipe for meatloaf. I've been using this all the time. I made the fish sandwiches, and there used to be a place here locally called it was called Fat Zackrell's, and they were famous for having the best fish sandwiches at the time. And my dad's like, this is better than Fat Zackrell's. Of course, it's better than my mom's. It made me feel good. And shortly after that is when I went to culinary art school and decided I wanted to be a pro chef. And I did that for years. But the whole point of this video is not me pissing off my mom or my dad. It's the stuff we grew up on when we were Gen X in the 70s and stuff. I mean, I want to know what you guys think too. I know I ramble, and this is definitely a rambling video. But think about it though. When you were kids, what did y'all have for dinner? And did you do the thing we did where everybody had to be there for dinner? And in my case, it was my sister, my mother, my father, and I. And we had to be there at 6 o'clock. And if you weren't there at 6 o'clock, you didn't eat. My sister constantly wasn't there at 6 o'clock. She had things to do. I was always there because I was just a little kid. I didn't have a job or nothing. But, yeah, leave a comment. I'm curious what you guys had to grow up with. And was it like mine? I'm assuming not, maybe, because I know my parents were older. And my dad was definitely stuck in his 40s and 50s, and it's amazing how the generations after generations, the years go by, how family dynamics change. And yeah, but that's how I grew up in the 70s and early 80s. Nowadays, my wife Kim and I, we're just, we feel like cooking, we cook. We don't feel like cooking, we don't. Family dinners, holidays. You know, my oldest daughter's going to turn 30 here in July. They come around, but not as often as they used to. We don't have the big family dinners. I mean, I cook for Christmas and Thanksgiving and They don't even want to do Easter anymore. But I still like cooking for my family. So, what do y'all think about that? Let me know in the comments. This video is long enough. I'll catch you next time. Bye.
It's just Bruce, he don't bite. Hello.